the program proper. So as we said, we are now changing from Webinar Jam to Zoom, which is going to be a little bit better for everybody. Also, I did last week's webinar again. Now, when I did last week's webinar again, we did that on Friday. Thanks to Carol for jumping on and getting me out of bed early and making sure that I had the right enthusiasm to record the webinar again. I didn't record a lot of that theory stuff that we did before because I really just wanted to give you the nuts and bolts so that you could jump straight in. So I think the original webinar was about 2 hours. The recorded webinar that I put into the members area for you earlier this week, that was an hour, but it focuses very specifically on what it is that we need to do. So I'm not putting the members area URL up here because this might be distributed to other people and I don't want them getting hold of that. That has been emailed through to you. Also, as we go through at the end of the day, once I've had a chance to tidy up and download the webinar, I'll then go and upload it into the members area for you. So obviously you'll have lifetime access to that, plus all of the other worksheets and things that we need as we're going through and building out everything. So as soon as I've done that, I will send out an email, and then obviously again, if you guys don't have it or you're not sure where to find it, I will obviously tell you what that URL is to log into the members area. Then at the end of today's webinar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through some questions. So at the end of this webinar, and in fact at the end of every webinar, you have the opportunity to pretty much ask anything that you want to ask. So it doesn't really matter where it comes from, whether it's from the first week. In other words, today you can ask any questions that you need relating to last week. So if there are any issues, and obviously you can ask any questions about what happens today. So there's no stupid questions, particularly as we're in this group scenario. If you have a question, there's a very, very good chance that somebody else has that exact same question. So be brave, just ask the questions. I promise you there are no silly questions. LinkedIn is such a powerful tool, and sometimes you just need to know one or two little small tweaks, or I don't want you to be caught up and sitting and faffing about something small, because that might be holding you back from really taking your LinkedIn machine to the next level. Okay, so please ask any questions that you want at the end of today. So let's jump into today. So as we said, we're going to talk about the audience. So last week, obviously, we did all the prep stuff. We spoke a little bit about our ideal client and why that was so important. And again, most of what we did was focused specifically on LinkedIn, right? So everything is based on how we how everything is going to relate to LinkedIn. There are some other issues, and what I'm going to do later on when we get sort of to the end of today, once I've covered the theory with you, is I'm actually going to jump in and I'm going to show you some practical stuff, and then it's going to actually make a lot more sense, and then I'm going to actually show you how the stuff that we did last week ties into the stuff that we're going to do this week. So it's going to be very, very exciting. So today really is all about now going ahead and finding that perfect audience so that we can actually reach out to them. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about defining our perfect audience. So let's just start off with the theory. Not always the most exciting stuff, but very, very important that we get the principles. But the nice thing about it today is I'm going to give you the theory, then I'm actually going to show you this theory in action so that you know exactly how to apply it. It's not one of those things where we're doing this theoretical course and you don't know what it is that you're doing. So the first thing that really is important is this whole idea of connections. So many times when I've been dealing particularly with accountants, and frankly any of my clients, really doesn't matter who those clients are, there's generally been a little bit of an issue in that they don't really understand this whole concept of connections, and because they don't understand it, they don't appreciate the power of LinkedIn. So let's just run through this. I know we did that in the original webinar, but not all of you were on that, and there's some very important concepts that I need to get through to you. So LinkedIn probably not love me for saying this, but it's kind of like multi-level marketing or network marketing, where you have 3 levels of connections. So you'd start off with yourself. So in my scenario, I might, for example, say to my dad, "Hey Dad, listen, why don't you go ahead and connect with me?" So what would happen is I'd send him a connection request. He would accept that connection request. So now there's been an understanding of the minds. We've both done something specific in order to get that request consummated, as it were. We are now first level connections. My dad then would probably go out and start talking to his colleagues and his friends. But let's just say, for the sake of this argument, that what he does is he reaches out to my brother and he connects now with my brother. So my brother now becomes a second level connection of mine and a first level connection of my dad. So now my brother's got lots of friends, so he's going to go out and he's going to go and connect with all of his friends and all of his colleagues. So again, those people are now third level connections of mine. So when we're looking at our connections, we're looking at first, second, and third level connections. So what that means is that we're not going to automatically be connected to every single person on LinkedIn, because we've already established earlier that there's probably over 600 million people on LinkedIn. Clearly, they're not all applicable to us, but even in the South African context, we've got over 7 million people now that are connected to LinkedIn. So we want to reach out to them, but clearly they're not all particularly useful to us, and LinkedIn is not going to show them all to us, because it would just be like unwieldy for us to try to manage that and to actually see what's going on. So what tends to happen is when we are doing searches on LinkedIn will generally show you the people that are closest in terms of connection to you. So they'll show you your first, second, and third level connections. When you have the free account, it's not quite so easy to see people that are not connected in first, second, and third level. When we use the paid account, and we're going to talk a little bit about that just now, then it doesn't really matter. You will see more. But the reality is you definitely want to have people within your network, because it's much easier to connect to them, and there are a whole bunch of other advantages. So that's the first thing, is we want to talk to people in our first, second, and third level connections. The other thing which we'll talk about just now is the other people that are actually part of your connections are the groups that you join. But that's a separate discussion, and we'll talk about that just now. But for the sake of this discussion, the most important connections are our first level connections. So these are people that we've sent a connection request to, and they've said, yes, I'll connect to you, or vice versa. And the main reason, there's really two big reasons that this is so important for us. The first one is that LinkedIn, firstly, will allow us to message those people directly. So because LinkedIn controls the whole LinkedIn universe, when you go ahead and you actually message a first level connection, there's a 100% guarantee that that message will be delivered. So it's very different to, so for example, email marketing, where we have to worry about the email service providers and spam and all that other sort of nonsense. You know, without a shadow of a doubt, if you send which would essentially be an SMS, if you like, LinkedIn's version of an SMS, a private message to somebody, they will 100% get it. So they get it in a couple of ways. The first way that they get it is obviously in LinkedIn. So when you log into LinkedIn, as you'll see just now, if you have a message, a little red dot pops up and says, hey, you've got a message, and you can click on it and obviously see it that way. And what LinkedIn will also do is it will send you an email. Now, LinkedIn, because they have such a high level of authority, they generally tend to get those emails delivered. I just want to see here, Ian's raised his hand. Ian, where are you? Give me a second. I just want to see, Ian's got a question. Let's just see. Ian, you there? Okay, Ian has raised his hand, but I can't see what he wants. Ian, can you just type into the chat box what it is that you want? Guys, what I'd like to say, is if we can, unless there's a problem, then obviously you need to alert me to it. Like you can't hear me, you can't see something, let me know. Otherwise, I'd rather appreciate if we rather run it to the end of the webinar, where we can actually handle questions and we can dive into it. Otherwise, it kind of takes everybody else off track. As far as that's concerned. So first level connection is important, and then the other thing is that you will be given the email addresses of all of your first level connections. I'll show you what that looks like, and you're going to see, not next week but the week after, when I actually show you how to utilize the power of email marketing, which really is going to take what we're doing in this LinkedIn piece to a completely new level. I generally find it tends to 3x our results, so it's very, very significant, and we'll show you what you can do that. So connections are very important. We need to understand this, and that's really the aim of the game, and that's what we're going to do today. Today we're going to find the people that we want to connect with, and then next week I'm going to show you, we're going to start that connection process when we actually go through and we connect with people. So the key thing is the LinkedIn filters. Okay, now this slide is one of the most important slides in your entire deck, okay, that you will ever have. So this particular slide, literally print it out and like laminate it and stick it on your wall, because everything that you do can really be summarized on this one single slide. Now I know we went through this in the original webinar, but again, it's so important. Let me just go through it again and show you what's on here and how we can actually go ahead and use it. And then what I will also do is I will upload a little bit later on after the webinar, when I upload the recording for you, I will give you a worksheet on this so that you can sort of pre-prepare when you're actually going ahead and you're doing the research, and not so much the research, but when you're actually finding the people that you want to connect with. So you can see on this little worksheet that we've got 5 columns. So the first column is all about the filter that we get to use, right? So the filter that we get to use is essentially LinkedIn's way of saying, look, this is information that I have available on the various people that you want to connect with. This is how you can actually use it, and the decision point is how we would actually use this information. So when we go ahead and we fill out our LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn asks us a whole lot of questions. And the reason that they're asking us those questions is so that it can use these filters. Now, we get to use these filters in a number of ways. So we're going to use it in the sense of being able to actually find connections, but you could also take this one step further, because behind it, LinkedIn's got quite a robust advertising platform. So if you really wanted to, you could actually get involved and you could pay LinkedIn some money and you could find your ideal clients that way. So there's really 2 ways to do it. And a little bit later on, when we sort of get towards the end of the program, and I actually give you that one bonus session that I promised you, when we look at the lead generation funnel, this is where you'll see that comes into play. So that would be an example of an instance when you would actually use the LinkedIn advertising methodology, as opposed to what I'm showing you now. But all you got to know is that LinkedIn has this information, and it's very powerful for us if we go and we use it properly. So that's what we're going to do now. Now, there's really 2 types of accounts that concern us. There's the basic account that everybody probably currently has. And there are limitations obviously on the basic account. Nonetheless, it's pretty good, right? It's definitely well worth the effort of having a basic account. And if you were not getting particularly involved in this and really putting a lot of effort into LinkedIn, and you were putting even just moderate effort in, that would probably be okay, right? Obviously, I'm going to suggest to all of you guys that are on this particular a training program that you go for Sales Navigator, but you don't need to do that right away. Obviously, it is a premium service. It's a paid-for service. So in South African rands, and I think other than Felicity, everybody else on this webinar is South African-based. There's another one that I'm doing for my Canadian and US clients, but this is focused on the South African market. So as I speak to you today, I'm going to assume that is the case for everybody. The cost is 1,000 rand, literally 1,000 rand and some cents a month. I think if you purchase the year in advance, you get a 2-month discount, so that would come in at about 10 grand. They do have a 30-day free trial, so that is obviously what I want all of you to use. Do not go and use or activate that free trial until you are 100% happy that you have got your LinkedIn profile sorted out, okay? Because without that, you'd just be wasting your time and your money. And the cool thing about it is that if you use that 30-day free trial, you can probably make enough money to literally pay for the rest of the year. Okay, and that's the idea. So I definitely want you guys to have the opportunity, if nothing else, to use it. Really, if you are going to take LinkedIn seriously, and you should, because it's the most awesome, as you'll see by the end of this course, it's the most awesome platform for us to generate as many leads as we could ever possibly want, and we can reach out to them and turn them into paying clients. So that 1,000 rand that we invest every single week is every single month is well worth it. So when it comes to the available filters, obviously you can see there's only 4 that I think are important for the basic account, and then Sales Navigator has some others. Now, I haven't listed every single feature that is available, every single filter, I beg your pardon, that is available on LinkedIn for you here, but I've listed the ones that are most important, that most of my clients, and most of my clients are accountants or in the financial field, use regularly. So these are the ones I use. I don't use any of the others because they're just not necessary. But just now, when I take you in and I show you the practical side of this, I will actually show you what that looks like. And then here's just an example. So in the worksheet that I give you, this will be blank. So the idea here would be, as you before you actually start, go ahead and fill this in. So you would look at the criteria based on the filters and the decision points and say, okay, my niche is whatever it is. Maybe it's plumbers, for example, maybe it's attorneys. And then you would simply fill this information in so that when you actually start your search, it's really just click, and you already know where it is that you're going. So this really just helps you to do the preparation for everything. So let's have a look practically at what this looks like. So the first thing that we're going to do when we look at the filters is the keywords. So obviously we're going to go and type something in. So when we start the whole process off, we'll type something in, and you'll see I'm going to type in the word accountant because that is my niche. Beg your pardon. And obviously what the decision point is, it's helping me to identify the industry. So last week I beat that drum a million times that I want you to choose an industry. So when we were talking about a niche, I needed you to find an industry, and I needed you to find an industry that was accessible on LinkedIn. Okay, and this is why, because if we're going to be able to use the real power of LinkedIn, we want to make sure that our clients or our potential clients are on LinkedIn in their droves. So if we're going to build a whole business around them, if we're going to build a system around them, let's make sure that there's enough of them for us to find. The next thing is location. Now, location, there's actually two different options for location. The one is, as you can see, region, and and a little bit down is postal code. Postal code, as you can see over here, only comes with Sales Navigator. Okay, so everything else is fine. We have that in the basic account, but postal code is Sales Navigator. So region would be, as you can see, a local, region, international. So you could say South Africa, that obviously would be international. I might say Gauteng or Johannesburg. Or if I really wanted to get local, I might say Edenvale, for example, which is where I'm based. So that is how we use it, and especially for us, accounts for the majority of you guys that are on the webinar today that are not going to be exclusively in the cloud, but you still need that face-to-face consultation, and you need to be close to your clients. This is important, and maybe even more so the radius or the postal code. So if you have a look at my example over here, I could say something like a 55-kilometer radius from my postal code in Edenvale, which is 1609. So what LinkedIn is going to do is it's going to give me its best effort, its best guess in terms of the information that it knows about the accountants that are close to my office, and you would do the same. So I love this. This is flippin' awesome. This really allows us to identify people that we can actually deal with, because one of the key things with LinkedIn that you want to do as soon as you possibly can is we're using LinkedIn as a platform in order to actually find people. The thing with it though is, what I want you to do as soon as possible is I want you to actually take the connections and the associations and the communication that you have on LinkedIn and pull them offline at your earliest convenience. So in my case, I deal with accountants all over the world. The way I would do that is I would set up a Zoom or a Skype conference, just like we're doing here. And if I was dealing with people that were close by, I'd invite them to my office, and sometimes I might even go out to them. So that's really the goal here, because remember, we are still in that person-to-person relationship business. So even though we refer to LinkedIn as a B2B or a business-to-business platform, it's still a person-to-person platform. And we don't want to leave people on LinkedIn for too long, because people don't always check their LinkedIn profiles every day. So our goal here is to find the people we want, start a conversation, and as soon as we can, we want to pull them into our brick and mortar businesses. Okay, so that's the idea there. Obviously, industry is exactly that. It's industry. So keyword and industry will go together. So in my case, I'm looking for the accounting industry. And again, when I show you the example, this will make a little bit more sense to you. Language. Again, this is all about communication. In South Africa, we have 11 official languages. Even in somewhere like Canada, where I do a lot of work, there could be English or French. Those are two big languages, and so I always like to just specify English. Obviously, if you don't need English and you need one of the other official languages, then use that. Very, very nice way for you to target into the people that you're looking to find very, very quickly and very, very easily. Okay, location, we've spoken about the radius. Seniority levels, this one is great. This really allows us to get to the decision makers. So the decision maker is very, very important, and it depends on you, it depends on your niche, and it depends on who you're trying to speak to. So in my world, because my niche is accountants, I need people that are called owners, partners, or directors. Now, what you're going to find on LinkedIn is people call themselves different things. So you might think that they're going to call themselves an owner, or you might think they're going to call themselves a marketing manager, but they don't. They call themselves like a marketing executive or a marketing director or a VP of marketing. So as you go through this process, you want to just keep making notes. So the more that you go through this process, the more that you learn, the more keywords you're going to pick up, and the easier it's going to be, and the better your searches are going to be, so that ultimately you can, as you do this exercise more and more, your results become better and better, and it's much easier to find the people that you need to connect with very, very quickly. And obviously you're going to get a much higher response rate, firstly when you connect, and then secondly when you actually start that communication process with them, because they're probably going to be people that are more likely to turn into paying clients, which of course is what this whole thing is about. Then we've got the function. Again, this is kind of related to decision maker, and this would be the functionality within the industry. So remember, up here, if we look at industry, I'm choosing up the accounting industry, but there could be different people in that industry, particularly in the larger firms. So obviously the obvious one is accounting, but because I'm in the marketing space, in the bigger firms, they may actually have a person that's called a business development person, business development manager, for example. So business development is just exactly what it sounds like, and that could incorporate marketing and sales. That is really the process of bringing new business on board. So you can see marketing or sales could also be good for me, or even consulting. All right. So again, that just depends on your market, but it does help us sometimes to narrow in on our searches. Headcount, again, depending on the market size. I like this one particularly. I tend to find if I have the firms that I'm dealing with that are too big, I find a lot of difficulty in getting a decision, because now, if I've got multiple partners, now there's Bosbarat, and now there's issues going on, and it's a mission. I just can't get a decision, right? Because now everybody's got to sit together, and everybody is considering things, and it just becomes a bit of an issue. So that's the headcount. So you'll see I like self-employed 1 to 10 or 11 to 50. Sometimes if I was in a situation where like I didn't have enough accounts, I might go 51 to 200. In my world, as you'll see just now, that's not a problem. But in your worlds where you are maybe restricted by location, it's going to be a different scenario for you. So for me, where it doesn't matter where they are in the world, I've got literally millions of people to choose from. So that's not an issue. So for me, I'm generally going to play in those first three, but I'll show you what that looks like. And then, of course, we've got company type. Again, this will give you some indication of what the size is. So I like privately held or partnerships. I mean, those are the most obvious ones, but there's going to be bigger companies, listed companies, NGOs, all sorts of other things. Then the last filter, which is really powerful, is the groups filter, and I'll show you a practical example of what that looks like just now. It'll make a bit more sense. But the nice thing about groups is anybody can really go ahead and create a group. So because I'm dealing with accountants, and because my speciality is, let's call it marketing for accountants, or lead generation, or client acquisition, but because obviously I know my market particularly well, on LinkedIn, if I take the word marketing and I take the word accountant, and if there was a way for me to kind of put those two together, what would then be happening is that accountants that were interested in marketing would be raising their hands and telling me that. And the way that this happens on LinkedIn is by somebody creating a group for accounts that is related to marketing. So there's a way for us to go and search those search terms, and then what LinkedIn will do is it will show us all of the groups that have marketing and that are for accountants in the group name. So generally, if somebody is creating a group and they called it marketing for accountants, or marketing for chartered accountants, or CPA marketing, or something along those lines, it's very, very specific, and most people are going to put that information in the group title. So the nice thing about that is that when you go into the group, remember I said to you that they are part of your, if we just go back one, they are actually part of your connections. So first level, second level, third level, plus group members are all part of your LinkedIn profile, right? Or part of your LinkedIn connections. So if that is the case, and we go into a group and somebody has already said, okay, well, I'm an accountant interested in marketing, then I would go through that group. Now, in that group, what's going to happen is I'm going to find people that are marketers, and I'm going to find people that are accountants. So the marketers are going to be marketers that are looking to obviously market to accountants, but the accountants that are in that group or the business development managers that work for accounting firms are going to be a very good indication for me that they're in that group because they're looking to get new clients. So I could go through a little bit of a sifting process, and I would already have a much better than average chance of turning some of those people into prospects and into paying clients, because they've already raised their hands and they've told me that they're interested because they've taken a physical step and they've joined a group. Okay, so groups are extremely powerful. All right, you definitely want to utilize groups, and I'm going to show you how to do that a bit later on. So this is one of the core cornerstones. I'm going to show you the second one in just a minute, and then we're going to jump into some practical stuff in terms of how we're going to do it. Okay, so this slide, literally, like laminate it, stick it on your wall. This drives literally everything for you from this point onwards. The rest of these, I'm not going to go through this in great detail right now because I'm going to show you practically, but what I did do is I just did a few screenshots for you showing you what it looks like in Sales Navigator. So this is the paid version, so that's all about industry. I'll fly through these very quickly because I'm going to show this to you, as I said, in just a minute. That's all about relationships, so that's your first, second, third level connections plus group members, as we've just said. The geography, so there's the two lots. Obviously this is all about the region, and then you've obviously got the postal code where you can be a little bit more specific. Seniority level, we'll go through this in a bit more detail, but this allows us to really hone in on the decision makers specifically that are pertinent to us, depending on who we're looking for. These are the functions, again, within the particular industry. So you can see it starts with accounting, and obviously it scrolls down to virtually anything you can think of. It's pretty much all on there. There is our head count, so you can sort of see you can do very small companies to very large companies, depending on what it is that you're looking to do there. And then the groups, so we'll talk about groups just now in a bit more detail, and I'll show you what that looks like. So just before we dive into the actual practical, and I'm just going to have a sip of coffee, I just want to take you through some real secret sauce. Okay, so we didn't cover this in the first webinar, but this is so powerful because this really enables us to be very, very precise in our searches. And I'm going to show you what this is in a minute, and we call this Boolean searches. So there's 5 different searches that I want to show you today. So the first is what we call quote searches. Now, if any of you are familiar with what we call exact phrase match on Google, this is really all that this is. So what's going to happen is, you can see if I type in the word product manager and I put that in inverted commas, what LinkedIn is going to do is it's only going to give me results that say project manager, and if project manager is spelled wrong, it's going to give me the project manager with the incorrect spelling. So if we put something in quotes, basically what it does is it brings us that exact search that we're looking for. Okay, so very, very useful at times when we're trying to do something very, very specific. The next thing is the and Boolean search string. So this is exactly what it sounds like. As you can see there, it's kind of like X and Y. So what it says is that if you are trying to find something, like in this example, if you want to do a search and you want there to be sales and marketing in the title, so you're looking for something very, very, very specific, then you would use the and search string. Now, something to notice, the and is all caps. Okay, it's all caps for a reason. You must make it all caps in order for this to work. So what this would mean is that the profile that we were going through would have to include both the words sales and the words marketing. Okay, then the next one, as you would probably imagine, is the or search string. So there it can be either or. So as we're going through, instead of it having to have both, it could have either sales or marketing, and if it has either one of those, it's actually going to go ahead and it's going to show up in our searches. And you'll see as you start playing with this, all of these become particularly important at some point or another. The last one, which is, in some ways, I actually find this one to be the most useful for me, to be quite honest, and that is what I call the not search string. So what the not search string does is it allows you to actually exclude things. Now, next week when we actually go into a little bit of the automation and I start to show you how we start to reach out to people, you'll start to see why this sort of thing is important, because the whole idea with the automation is that we want to scale stuff. Now, I'm going to suggest to you that maybe you don't necessarily use automation, and certainly in the beginning you don't use it. But if you do want to get to that point where you're using automation so that you're not spending all that much time on LinkedIn, then this becomes really important, because you're going to have to almost go blind. So you're going to do a search. You're going to use the AI power of LinkedIn and what is available and some of the tools that I'm going to show you in order to almost pick the people that you want to reach out to. Now, you're not going to have 100% success rate there, but you'll be pretty close. And the more that you're actually able to use these Boolean search strings, and the better that you're actually able to hone in, the better your results are going to be. And this one here is particularly important because, as I said, people call themselves all sorts of funny things. And if we want to be able to actually exclude a search term, this is where it would be important. So let's just say that we were looking for people that were in sales but not in marketing. So as you were searching, you tended to find people kept talking about marketing, or they might be talking about a marketing apprentice or marketing internship, and that's just irritating us. We don't want that. Then all we would do is we would type in sales, and then we would say not marketing internship or marketing manager, whatever the case may be. And then all it does is LinkedIn now just takes those results out of the results that it shows us. Now this is great because remember, we actually have to spend a little bit of time going through each and every one of these if we're going to do the personalized approach, which is what I'm going to start to teach you today before we decide to actually scale it up. And the personalized approach really helps us to get a lot more people to connect and to start the conversation a lot easier. So it invariably is actually worth going ahead and doing it. So I'll show you what that looks like in a bit, but pretty useful. So just to give you an example for me, if I'm searching for accountant, I'm going to say not trainee accountant, because clearly I'm never selling a trainee accountant a product on how to get clients. The last one is a little bit more complicated, but this allows us to basically take these first four and play with them and to sort of combine them. So these are the parenthetical searches, in other words, just in parentheses. So this actually allows us to do a lot more complex stuff. So this is where we can combine things. So for those of you that remember your days from algebra, if you think back, this is pretty much what it is, and it's kind of no different to really being able to search on Google. So if you look at this, when we're trying to add complexities, here's an example. So let's say that we want to find people that have got VP. Now VP is an American term, it stands for vice president. So we want them to have VP in their profile, but we don't want them to have assistant to VPs, and we also don't want them to have SVPs in their profile. So what we would do is we would type in VP, right, because that's what we want. Then we would say not, because now we want to exclude the stuff, and then we know that it's one or the other. So then we could just use our brackets or our parentheses, and we could say assistant or SVP. Okay, so very, very powerful. You can just sort of apply your mind and work out what it is that you need to do. And it's actually quite logical. So most of us being accountants, this should be pretty easy for us to actually apply. So this is, if you take this plus that earlier slide, this one, sorry, let's go back, this one, and you apply those two together, this is where the great power comes in. And with those two concepts, if you like, this really allows us to find anybody that we want. Okay, so let's speed through this again quickly. And now what we're going to do is we are going to play the practical game. So this is cool. I really do enjoy this part of it. Now I'm going to do this in two parts. The first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a walkthrough using my niche, which is accountants, for two reasons. So the first reason is that I have to use a niche that I understand and one that I have access to on my computer, particularly for first level connections, because there's some stuff that I need to show you there. So I'm going to do that. And then what I want to do is I'm going to give one of you guys an opportunity to give me a niche that you have chosen. And then we'll do that. So what will happen is I'll go through the process and I'll just talk you through it as if I were doing it. And the nice thing about it is that it will be as new for me probably as it is for you. And you'll find, especially when you do things live, the internet always conspires to kick you in the head. So nothing ever works as well as you would want to do. And you know what, that's actually great, because when you do it, it's also not going to work perfectly every single time. So great, I showed you Holodeck theory, but does it always work? No. And sometimes you have to think outside the box a little bit. Sometimes you need to try different things, you apply it in different ways, and you'll be amazed. So really, from this point onwards, the best way to learn this now is to just do it. And I'm just going to give you an insight into my head and how it would work for me. So what I need to do is to see if I can show you my screen. Do me a favor, would you guys just let me know in in the chat box, or otherwise, can you see my LinkedIn profile at the moment? I'm not sure because I haven't used Zoom in this context before. I'm not sure if I have to unshare the screen and share again. So Colin says no. Okay, cool. So Colin, what I have to do, I need to stop sharing that. Cool, and I need to share. Where is it? I need to share that. Okay, cool. Okay, let's try that again, just to make sure. Can you see my chat now, guys? Let me know if you can. Can you see my chat? Can you put in the chat whether you can actually see my LinkedIn profile? Yes, I can. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through this from a practical point of view. So any of you that actually want me just now to pick your niche, just pop into the question box if you'd like me to do that for you. We'll go ahead and do that, but I'm going to just start off for me. And really, all I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk to what I see. Okay, it's really, very simple. So this is unstructured, or this is not something that's planned. It just happens, and this is the best way for you to actually learn. So remember, last week we spent a lot of time in identifying our ideal client, and then taking that information and building out our LinkedIn profile. So I hope you guys have managed to do that. If not, we'll talk a little bit about that towards the end, how we can help with that and get you caught up to speed. But let's just say, for the sake of this argument, that is the case. Now, let me just talk a little bit about my own situation so that I can explain this to you. Aside from having to go through that information because of the filters that we're using and the ability for us to actually reach out to people on LinkedIn, what you want to do is you need to kind of understand your target market so that you know really when you're actually going through the search whether a person is going to be a good prospect for you or not. So in my world, when I was going through that whole process of the ideal client criticals, and I was working out all the pains and gains, what I really identified at the end of the day, particularly when I was looking at the niche, is that, as I said to you, my niche is accountants. But if you think about what I'm doing, if you look at my banner over here, I say I'm a lead and client generation specialist to the accounting profession. So clearly, I'm in the business of selling marketing services, and in particular helping accountants to get more leads and to get more clients. So if we pause for a second and we think about that, the reality is that not every single accountant or person that calls himself an accountant really fits into this category. Again, it doesn't matter if it's a chartered accountant. It doesn't matter if it's, say, a CIPA member. I've got a number of bookkeeper clients, so in certain circumstances, bookkeepers are the right accountants for me. So it just depends. But who would be wrong for me when I was going through this? So if we think about the fact that I need to sell marketing services to accountants, clearly, the very first distinction I have to make is people that are in public practice, which would be pretty much all of you that are on the webinar with me today, versus, say, somebody who's in commerce and industry, right? Because if you're the partner, whether you're the sole partner or just the partner in charge, your job is to continue bringing your business into the practice. Because if you don't have a practice. You can't pay your staff, you can't look after your clients. However, if you happen to be a financial director in a listed company, all right, like, client acquisition and marketing is not your problem. Okay, that's somebody else's problem. Nothing to do with you, right? You have an HR department, or you have a marketing or a sales department there. So I am never ever going to get that person to be my client. At best, all I'm going to get is a referral where the FD says to the marketing person, go watch this webinar. It seems like it might be a good idea. But I'm never going to get a decision. I'm never going to make a sale. So I don't want to talk to that person, right? If I take it a little bit broader than that, even within accounting firms, right? If you're not in that decision-making process, you're useless to me. So if you're a manager, for example, in an accounting firm, I don't want to talk to you because your job's not to bring in clients. Your job is to service the clients that are in your practice. It doesn't matter to me if you're a bookkeeper, for example, and you don't have your own practice. If you're an accountant in public practice anyway. If you're a trainee accountant, as we discussed earlier. So as I'm going through this, it was very, very important for me to know who I want to deal with and who I don't. And so as I'm going through these profiles, I'm starting to look for clues in that profile to tell me, is this a good person? Should I reach out to them and try to get them to connect? Or is it just going to be a waste of my time? So that is another reason why it was so important. And this, I'm just trying to show you how we utilize the stuff that I showed you last week. So I want to show you that it's not just some theory that we put together, but it actually has a practical application, other than obviously you being able to put your LinkedIn profile together, and obviously to be able to put the promise together on your website. It helps you with deciding who it is that you're going to reach out to, and then when you reach out to them, it also helps you with the wording of what it is you're going to say. And next week, when we get into the wording and the templates and things, and I actually show you how we go about that process, and the process is going to be how we connect. Then once they've connected, how we take it to the next level, how we see whether they're interested or not, and then how we take that engagement from LinkedIn off LinkedIn, and then obviously into a face-to-face consultation, right? So that's the exciting part, but we'll get to all of that next week. So that should just give you a little bit of a background and an idea. So if we have a look at this, I'm showing you my profile basically at the moment. So one of the first things that I want you to see is that when one clicks on the connections over here, you can see I've got 500 plus connections. When I click on that, what it's going to do, so as of today, I've got 1,748 results. Now, if I was a first connection of yours, or if I am a first connection of yours, you will be able to see all of this, right? So you will now be able to see all of the people that have connected to me on my first level. Like I said, these are first level connections, right? Very, very important. Now, a principle that I want you guys to take very seriously is, when you are thinking about connecting to people, you must connect to people that you can make a sale to in this context. So what a lot of accountants do is they connect to other accountants. Now, this doesn't help. In my world, I'm connecting to accountants, but they are my clients. In your world, if you connect to other accountants, not such a good idea, because they are never buying anything from you, right? So if your niche happens to be attorneys, then go and connect with 16 bazillion attorneys, not accountants. That's the first principle. However, okay, understand that most professionals don't understand that principle. So most accountants will connect with other accountants. Okay, that's just how we are, and this is good news for us. So when we were going into this, connections, as it were. So let's say that you were connected to me, and for whatever reason you needed to speak to accountants. What you would then be able to see are different people that I've connected to. Now, obviously, I don't only have accountants, because I've connected for all sorts of other reasons, but you would be able to actually find a lot of accountants that I had connected to. So if you can find somebody who deals with a particular niche, that we're going to reach out to. So in my case, there's a logical reason for me to be connected to accountants. If your business revolved around accountants, you do very well to connect to me as a first level connection, because then you got access to all of my people. And I've identified, or very simply or very easily, you can identify people that you can actually go ahead and use. Now, here's a very important principle I want you to remember. If you look at the bottom here, you can only go up to 100. Okay, so LinkedIn will only ever show us in any given search, doesn't matter what it is, a maximum of 1,000 people. So in a minute, when I show you that there's millions of people, or thousands of people, or tens of thousands of people, doesn't matter. Okay, LinkedIn are only going to show us 100. But anyway, these are my first level connections. So you can get access to 1,000, not 100. They'll show you 100 screens. So you'll be able to see the first 1,000 connections, and same in any search. So that is something that's very, very useful. So again, that's another advantage of a first level connection, is that we can get access to the people that they connected to. Okay, so just think for yourself how you can use that. It's very, very powerful. So many times when we're dealing in LinkedIn, particularly if your niche is not a very obvious one, so like estate agents, just as an example, who the heck do they connect with, right? Because they need to find people that are selling a house. Now, I mean, that's like a needle in a haystack. So what they would do is they would ask themselves a different question. They would say something like, okay, who would know at a very early stage whether somebody needed to sell a house? So they may come up with a whole bunch of ideas. They might come up with divorce attorneys, for example. They might come up with accountants, quite literally. They might come up with financial advisors. Then what they will do is they'll start to connect with those people, because they know that those people will be able to help them with referrals. So it's a different type of business relationship. We generally are a little bit luckier in what we're doing here, and that's not quite the name of what I'm the game that I'm going to teach you in this webinar sequence, but it's definitely something that you can use. So don't just look at it and say, oh, I'm just going to connect with somebody that I can do business with. Sometimes think a little bit broader than that and connect with people that can refer you to people that you can do business with. Okay, very, very important principle. The other thing that you will notice on your first level connections is when you click your first level connections, you will see that you will have at least 2 pieces of information. The first piece is obviously you will have the LinkedIn profile that people have filled in. So that is the profile or the URL to the profile that LinkedIn has assigned you, and you will have the email address. Okay. Now in my case, I've elected to put other information in. I think I did get on my high horse last week, and certainly on the original webinar when I was saying, guys, do you not want to be found? I mean, the whole idea of being out here is that people can get hold of us. So just put as much information out there as you can. But the cool thing here is that we do get this email address. And next week, sorry, not next week, the week after, I'm going to show you how to really take this information and take it to a completely new level. So very, very important information. Okay, so that's the first obvious piece of info here. The other thing that I want you to look at here is as you're going through and you're opening up different profiles. In fact, let me actually do that for you. Let's actually start this process. I'm going to show you something a little bit more tangible. So as I said to you, I'm going to start off and I'm going to just put accounting, or maybe I'll put account. Let's put accountant, and I'm going to click search now. What you will see over here at the top is we can search in these different categories. So we can do a people search, we can do a job search, a content search, or if we click the more, we can search companies, schools, or groups, right? So there's our groups. Very, very, very important for us a little bit later on. Now, as you can see, what I've done, nothing special. I've typed in the word accountant, and I have, as you can see over here, 205,000 results pending over here. So if I actually click on people, because it's given me something generic, if I click on people, you can see it's actually showing me over 6 million results. Okay, so like I am never ever going to run out of accountants to deal with, because like even if I get through these 6 million, by the time I've done that, there's probably another 12 million more. So this is the great power of LinkedIn. People keep adding to this network, and really LinkedIn has created this business breakfast for us. They're giving us access to people. People are putting out their own profiles, and LinkedIn are just giving us the ability to go and look to find the people that we want using all of their filters. I mean, it doesn't get easier than this, really. So if we have a look at this, you will see as I put in accountant, I got 6,000 results. So this is like a lot of results. So let's go over here where it says all filters, and we're going to click on that. Now remember, we're in the basic account, right? So we haven't got to the point where we pay it. So everybody has access to this, and it's kind of a strange thing. Sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, I just find it actually easier to use the basic account sometimes to find info, and sometimes it's easier to use Sales Navigator. I almost find like they're designed for 2 different purposes. But let's just have a look at this. So the first thing to see here is connections, first, second, or third. Now, in the context that we're talking about here, remember, we are trying to identify people to reach out to. So there's no point in reaching out to first level connections because they are already first level connections. So what I generally like to do is start with second level. You can push third level, but in many cases it's not necessary because there are enough people out there. But if your niche is a little bit smaller, then you would go and do that. So for the sake of this conversation, I'm just going to say second level connections, all right? And when I get to location, let's just say I'm going to do it in the Joburg area. So you can see up here, every time I add a filter, it pops it up here. So now I've got 2 filters selected. So I've used the word accountant, well technically 3, right? Because I've got the keyword accountant, I've got second level connection, and I've got Johannesburg area. Okay. If I click on apply, what's going to happen now is that city 6 million is now going to come down to something that's a little bit more manageable. It's down to it's down to 22,000 results. Now that's still quite big, right? But at least it's starting to get a little bit more manageable for me. And what you'll notice here is that obviously because I told them specifically when I did the search I wanted second level connections, all of these are second level connections, okay, clearly. And second level connections are quite close to me, and there are some other reasons why you would generally want to maybe reach out to them, because sometimes first level connections can easily sort of refer you to second level connections. So I generally find that this is the best place to start. And remember that even though technically I have 22,000 results, if I scroll down, remember, 100 max. So I'm only going to get 1,000 results regardless. So if I wanted to go through this and I wanted to potentially have the opportunity to see all 1,000, what I would do is I would play, if I go back to our filters, I would play with the location. So what I would do is I would say Johannesburg, or I would then say Edenvale, or Boksburg, or something like that. So that what I was doing is I would be hoping to using the geographic locator, or the geographic filter, I would hope to get the search string to under 1,000, because then I could actually go through and see all 1,000. So sometimes you just have to manipulate these filters in order to get them below 1,000. But in this case, as we have seen, we've got 22,000. So let's just run with this for a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open, let's just say the first three, just the first four, just because they happen to be there, and let's have a look at what we get, because there's some other stuff that I want to show you. So the first thing that I'll show you, just to prove the point to you, okay, so this guy, Timber, he's got 500 connections, but I can't see them because he's not a first level connection. And when I look at his contact info, that's all I'm getting. So I got his birthday because he decided to let me see that. And LinkedIn will give me the profile. That's it. But there's nothing else, right? There's no phone number. There's no email address. There's nothing. Okay, so now you're starting to see the power of that first level connection. The rest of the information here is kind of typical. Now, a couple of things I want to show you. On the side over here, you will see that people who viewed Timber also viewed these people. So it's kind of like in Amazon, you know, people who bought this book, bought that book, or bought these books. So if somebody is searching, in this case for accountants, and they happen to view Timber, there's a very good chance that they were searching for other accountants. So as they were doing that, they may well have gone ahead and found other accountants. So if we look at this, you can see that Samantha's an accountant. I don't know what Gray Green is. That could be an accounting firm. It could be a consulting firm. It could be financial advisors. Okay, but Nishen over here, he could possibly be someone that I want to talk to. Finance manager at Absa Cape Epic. Now, remember a couple of minutes ago, I was talking to you about who my ideal client was. Am I going to be able to sell client acquisition services to a finance manager at Absa? Okay, the answer is probably no. So I'm not even clicking on this. Okay, so sorry, Brett, it's not anything personal. It's just that I don't think you and I are going to be able to do business together. So I don't want to waste my time or yours, right? Over here, we've got Chief Financial Officer, Bremner Investments. Again, I might have a look at that one, because it depends if Gerard over here is involved in finances. He's probably not an accountant, but he might be a financial advisor, if that's where I want to go. So you can see accounting manager. So again, do I want a manager? Probably not. So I'm leaving that. And also, this is a commercial company, Tobacco International, and so we go on. But the key thing here is that it has actually already shown us potentially people who we might want to look at. So instead of having to do a search, you could literally just open this. So let's just open Marcel, just for the sake of it. So we open Marcel, and we go through it, and obviously Marcel hasn't said a whole lot, so I'm not going to know. He's only got 23 connections. He's probably not going to be a great connection for me. But if he was, I'd click on him, and of course we go through that whole process again. Okay, so a little while ago, I needed to find people that were involved in accounting associations all over the world. And I needed specifically people that were in marketing and people that were involved in the CPD side of things. And I battled my behind off to find these people, because I didn't know what they were called, and it was just such a struggle. And look, I tried all the tricks that I'm showing you today, and eventually I got lucky. I found somebody, and through this little piece on the side here, I literally managed to like open up the whole network. So I started to see who was connected to who, because that's what tends to happen. If you think about that particular group of people, if you are in an accounting association, you're probably going to be talking to other people that have a similar job to you in other associations. So this is a fantastic way, particularly if you're battling to find people, or you're looking for very specific people. This is a way for you to actually go through and find them over there. Okay, so everybody else, same sort of thing, right? So again, second level, I've got 500 connections. would I want to connect to this person? Maybe I'd have to go through and have a closer look at it. So maybe we can actually do that. So let me take you through this. So if you look at this, by the way, one of the things that I'm doing as I go through this, and I'm going to talk you through my thinking. The first thing, I don't really care if there's a banner or not, because not everybody is sophisticated enough to know that you should utilize the banner. For me, it's a red flag if you don't have an image. It's just like if you are actually serious, you should have one. So I'm a bit confused because like 500 connections is not nothing. You have to do some serious amount of work to get 500 connections. So I'm not sure why Mohammed does not have an image. So that's a bit of a red flag for me, because he's not a first level connection. There's no point in even clicking on contacts. You can, however, see, because this is my industry, we do have 18 mutual connections, and if I clicked on here, it would tell me who they are. So let's go and have a look here in the about. So remember, this is the summary that we spoke about. Now you guys are going to do a kick-ass summary as opposed to a lot of what you're going to see coming up today, and you'll kind of get an idea of why people don't do particularly well on LinkedIn, because they don't understand a lot of those principles that I've been showing you and that you guys are going to be implementing, so that you have an absolutely killer profile and a system that you can use that profile to convert into clients. So let's have a look at this. It says, I'm a chartered accountant with experience in audit and as an accountant. Okay, so far, don't know. I've got to read on. And look how badly this is formatted. Okay, it's horrible. Put some lines in between, for goodness sake. He's making me work really hard to read this. So I'm seeking to leverage my technical and professional expertise to a managerial consultancy role within finance. So the first thing that this is telling me is he wants a job. So clearly, I'm not really going to be able to deal with it. I probably wouldn't even read any further at this point. So as I'm going through this, remember, we're trying to find information as quickly as we can. We're trying to identify people that we can work with as quickly as we can. And so the first opportunity that I get to exclude someone, I am. So literally, I'm closing this. That was it. That's my thinking. I've gone through that process. I'm done. Right? Pooja, again, 500 connections, excited. Everything else is okay. Let's go and have a look. Now, this is even worse. There is no summary. Okay, so I can't even make a decision here. Am I going to reach out? Probably not. Why? Well, because remember, in my world, I've got 6 million accountants to talk to. So I may as well have an opportunity to work out who I'm going to talk to. Another trick that I like to do is when you look at the experience, you can see here, obviously she's a trainee accountant. If it didn't say trainee accountant to give me that indication, you would still be able to see over here when she qualified. So this oftentimes is going to give you an indication of how old the person is, and sometimes that's important to you. So in my world, I want people that have had an opportunity to go through articles, get a little bit of experience, start their firm, if you think about it, and actually have a few clients. That's preferable for me, so that they're in that situation where they've been through the school of hard knocks, but they can actually pay for the products and services that I want to offer. So if I'm looking at an age bracket, anything from say 25 onwards, that's a really good space for me to play. Okay, so this is how you would use this sort of information to think a little bit outside of the box that's not obvious, and this is how you use the experience. Okay. So again, not there, so we'll close that one. And then of course we've got Andre over here, 500 connections, etc. And again, Andre is not telling me a whole lot, so not helping me tremendously. What I do want to show you is, let me go back to my profile, and sorry, let's just go. Yeah, actually, let me just get back to my profile here. So if you go to my connections, for example, so if you were doing this and you would have these, so you can see these first few are all first level connections. So let's look for first level connections that are actually accountants. So health and beauty, no, okay, that's for another niche that I was involved in. So OPA might be, so you might click on OPA. That's software and marketing, not so much financial planner, not for the sake of this. Sales and support, no. Partner at PSG, so you may or may not be sure. I don't even remember, to be honest, so we'll check. George, I know, is not. So Derika, she's an owner, accountant at her practice, so she's definitely somebody that you'd want to talk to. Tuso, owner at Lofty Brainchild, again, I can't remember if that is an accounting practice or not. We can have a quick look, and then Yaku over here. So we've got a few to go and have a look at. So let's go and see what we found. Okay, so let's get rid of that. We did that a bit earlier. So Andre, hang on, we want our first ever connection. So Opa over here, Opa's got 47 connections. So Opa's probably not a great prospect for me. So even though somehow I've connected with him, there's a very good chance that Opa reached out to me and I just said yes. So in the past I used to connect to anybody that reached out to me. Today I don't do that anymore. Today I only want to connect with people that are within my network. So as I get the advice I gave you earlier, like if you're not in the financial space right now, an accountant, auditor, bookkeeper, financial advisor, probably not that interested in connecting, because ultimately what I want to do here is I want to cultivate this little community of mine. I'm going to do it by reaching out. I do webinars. I want to talk to people, and I really want to speak to people and build relationships with the people that I have the best opportunity of converting into paying clients. Okay, so that's one of the important things. And in fact, probably very shortly, even though I've got 748 connections, I'm probably going to go through it, and I'm actually going to delete a whole lot of people that are not particularly pertinent to what it is that I'm doing. So that's a decision that you've got to make. So Opa is probably not going to be great for me to illustrate what I want to show you. So let's move from Opa. Ben, he's got 223 connections. Let me pass on Ben for a second. Drika, only 32 connections. So while she's pretty useful for me, 32 connections might indicate that she's actually not that active on LinkedIn. So it might be good, it might be bad. Let me see. Yeah, let me just illustrate the point that I wanted to show you here. Doesn't matter who you're actually connected to. So when you are reaching out and you're connecting to your target audience, so Drika is still pretty good for me, right? Because she's an owner for sure, okay, of an accounting practice. So definitely somebody that I would want to talk to and reach out to and form a relationship with. Now you can see here, she hasn't said a whole lot, but she gives me a little bit of a history here. So she has experienced finance manager with a demonstrated history of working in the accounting industry, skilled in Microsoft Excel, Word, account reconciliation, general ledger, Microsoft Office, strong finance professional with Bachelor of Commerce, financial accounting, focused in accounting and finance from Northwest University. So that is, with the greatest of respect, sorry, Drika, a terrible profile if you're trying to make sales. So probably what happened is she put this profile up some time ago without really understanding how LinkedIn works, and then popped off and started her own practice. So this is not a profile that's doing her any favors. But on the assumption that it was, I want to show you, if we scroll down to the bottom, okay, we have this, we have interest here. Actually, there's not enough interest for me to show you here. Sorry, you see, this is what I said. When you do stuff live, it's going to embarrass you, because it can. Let me go find something. Okay, so let's see. Tuso, hopefully it's going to... Okay, so Tuso, let me just go back and show you why I was excited. So Tuso over here, he's got 500 plus connections. It means he's probably very active. He's got quite a good profile picture. You can see, obviously, there's a lot of information to be gleaned on the side. And as we scroll down to the bottom, we have these interests here. Now, if you click on the see all, what it's going to show us is that there's various ways for us to find interests that other people have. So there's influencers that he's following. So he likes Richard Branson. Frankly, I don't care. I don't actually care either about the companies that he's following or the schools. Okay, not important in my life right now. What is important, I want to know what groups he's a part of. So the reason I want to know what groups he's a part of is because sometimes when I'm deciding which groups to connect to, there may be groups that I'm just not aware of because I haven't put the right search string in. But if this person happens to be an ideal client of mine or ideal prospect, and they have elected to be in a particular group, there's a very good indication that I maybe should be in that group as well. So if we look at this, you can see that he's a member of 4 groups. So hedge fund group. Now, is hedge funds going to help me in what I'm doing based on what I told you earlier about my ideal client? No, don't care. Silicon Valley venture community, does that help me? Nope, don't care. University of Cape Town alumni, am I going to find accountants in public practice in there? Not in their droves. Nope, don't care. PricewaterhouseCoopers, I might be interested in that. Okay, so I did articles on Pricewaterhouse, so that might be a group that I'm interested in, but it's not a particularly good example of a group. So let's let's try and find something that's a better example. So let's close this. And this is, when I said to you I'm going to show this to you, warts and all, I don't know what's coming. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but at least I get that opportunity to talk you through the process so that you can see what might be good and what might be bad. So let me go to the second page of my connections. And again, let's look for somebody that's an accountant that might be useful. So owner at CAS support, that might be useful. So we'll open her. HR, no. Accountant executive, no. No. Managing director executive, no. You know what? I'm kind of going to go into the middle here, because when I first started, I connected to everybody. I got a little bit more picky towards the end. So let's hope here we've got people that are more accounting orientated. Jean. Jean's actually on the webinar today, so I won't jump on there in case I embarrass her, and I shouldn't be showing something to you guys that are on here. Let's go to the next page. Entrepreneur, managing director, simplistic accounting, so she'd probably be quite good. Let's pick one more. Independent consultant, resource, SEO. Student, no. Where do I? Well, let's go here. Probably not necessarily ideal, but she's probably going to have a lot more, and not necessarily ideal because I told you if she's at PwC, clearly they have more than 2 or 3 partners, and they're going to drive me nuts and never get a decision out of them. So not my first point of call. Let's go to Massimo and let's have a look. Okay, so as we go into this, she's got 264 connections. Let's have a look. If we go down, let's have a look at the interests. Let's have a look at groups. And now we can see again PwC alumni, woman business owner. So if that was a group that would interest me, I would go there, but not so much in my case. Chartered and professional accountants. So I might want to go here, right? Because at least I've got accountants, and if they're chartered and professional, what does that mean? That means they're in public practice. So let's see if I can actually, I'll open that in a new tab. And here we've got Meredith Harrington Chartered Accountant. So that's probably something very specific. It's only got 38 members. Am I going to get too excited? Probably not. So let's go and have a look at the bigger group. Now, what I need to tell you about groups, you can only join a maximum of 100 groups. Now, groups are what they call closed, which means that anytime you want to join a group or you want to be a member, you must first, if you haven't been admitted to the group, you have to first request that the admin of that group actually allows you to be a member of the group. So because I'm already a member of this group, you will see that I can obviously see everything in the timeline. So if you're not a member, then the little button would be saying click to apply, as it were. So what you'll see is here's the 34,000 members. If I wanted to, I could see all the members, or I could actually reach out particularly to anybody that I know to invite them to become a member of this group because I'm already a member. They would still have to go through that process where they would have to apply, but at least I could tell them that, hey, this is a great group, apply. And then you'll see whenever you're looking at it, there'll generally be a little bit of a write-up as to what the group is about. So before you go ahead and join the group, go work it out. So this group is for accountants, and they give you all the designations, and recruitment professionals, either in public or private practice, committed to maintaining high ethics, networking, and actively advancing the global recognition of chartered accountant designation, fostering professional interaction with this new age of converging accounting standards. So does this help me directly from a marketing perspective? No, not to the extent that it would have helped me if this was a marketing group. But remember, there's still a group of accountants. These are my ideal clients because they're all in public practice. So would it be useful for me to be in this group? Yes, it would. Okay, I'm going to find people very, very easily because they've raised their hands to be in this particular group. And then every group's going to have rules, so you'll kind of read through the rules. I won't bore you with that because normally it's don't spam us, be courteous, and no promotions. That's kind of the gist. But then what's going to happen is that everybody within the group can actually post into the group. So now what's going to happen is people are hopefully going to post articles into this timeline over here and information that is very, very pertinent to why this group has been established. Okay, so this allows you also to get access to other people in your industry who are leaders. So anybody who's publishing information in here is a leader. Now, I happen to know Paul personally. He's one of the foremost proponents of teaching accountants how to get new clients in the UK, and you will see that he's very, very active. So he is an authority figure in the industry, and that's one of the reasons that I connected with him. So that is how we deal with groups. Let's have another look. Let's have a look at Johanna here. Let's pop down and see if Johanna helped us again. We'll see all groups. Only a couple. Let's just see. Let's click that one. I just want to. So you can see here, I'm not a member of this group, and here you can see if I wanted to, I would click to join. Now, the other thing that you want to remember is that LinkedIn only allows you, when you request to join a group, you can only have 10 outstanding group requests at any one time. So you can have a maximum of 100. So when your 100 allotment is full, you have to delete some to potentially become members of new groups. However, when you send out your group connections, it'll only allow you to send out 10. Now, the reason that this is important is because the admins don't just jump onto LinkedIn every waking moment and go ahead and approve you. So you might wait anywhere from a day to a month, sometimes more, to be approved, because sometimes the admins have kind of forgotten about the group. It's not particularly prominent anymore, and you don't really want to be a member of that group. So what I tend to do is I'll do the 10, and then every 30 days or so I'll go through it, and if I found that after 30 days they haven't accepted me as a member, then I withdraw that request, and that allows me then to open up another spot, and I can go and I can ask for another group. So again, go through that process. 100 groups is a lot of groups, especially if you're focused, like I'm showing you here, where you're not trying to connect to everybody and his dog, and you're just trying to connect to groups where you're going to actually be able to engage and find your ideal clients. Okay, so really awesome for you to utilize that. So that's how you would go about it, and literally I would request to join, and then they would either come back and say yay or nay. Really as simple as that. Okay, so that's groups as far as that's concerned. Now I think I've pretty much shown you the key things that I can show you that are really going to make a difference for you when you're looking at the basic profile. What I want to do now, though, is I want to show you how we can take that one step further, and we take the basic profile into Sales Navigator. So let me get rid of all of this stuff again over here. Let me take you back to this profile that we did. So remember, when we did our search, if we go to all filters, so you will remember we're going to search, let's go again, accountant. We're going to do accountant. We are going to, in our filters, we don't want first level connections, we want second level connections, and let's just say Johannesburg for the moment. Okay, and we're going to apply that, and as we have seen, we've got these 22,000 results. So the goal now would really literally be to use the information that you've got here and try to make the best decisions that you can. So as you're using this information and you are clicking through, this will give you an indication of whether it's going to be worth your time to spend time on this profile before you decide to reach out to somebody. So in that example that I was talking to you a little bit earlier about me looking for people that are in public practice, I'm specifically looking for that. So as I go through this first one, it just says accountant, and then what it's showing me here is some information, right? So obviously they're in the Johannesburg area, and clearly, because that was the filter that I put in place, they'll tell me where they worked before. So I'm not getting a heck of a lot of information here on that one. Over here it says I'm a chartered accountant with experience in audit, and as an accountant I'm seeking to leverage. Remember we looked at that one a little bit earlier, so we know accountant, past trainee accountant. So I'm not seeing anybody that's saying owner, I'm looking after my clients, etc., etc. So as I'm going through this, if I'm making a decision as to whether I want to open any of these profiles, I'm passing those by. Clearly trainee accountant doesn't help me because I can't sell trainee accountants anything. Accountant. So you can see this is not particularly useful for me at this point in time. As you can see, as we hover over, These are the connections. At the bottom, we can see who they're connected with. So sometimes you're just going to have to open these. So if we don't know, we might just go ahead. Let's just go and open a couple of those. Accountant, I don't know. So if I'm getting really poor results, then I might go and say chartered accountant, for example. Okay. So as we open this up, really what I'm looking for is the information. So first thing I'm looking for, this is my decision process. Okay. Do they have a banner? Not reading too much into that. This is an awful photograph, okay, terrible photograph, because it's not showing who he is. I can't see the face. It's like there's too much nonsense going on in the background. I don't know who this person is. I can't see the smile. I can't see engagement. I don't know. 283 connections. Not sure whether that's good or bad. It could be either. Anything that's 500 connections plus, I'm very excited. So this one, the jury's still out on me, but I don't like the photo. I'm looking for his summary. There's no summary. If there's no summary, I can't make a decision. That's as much time as I'm spending on that profile. I'm done. Okay? Better. I'm looking at that. 170 connections. He's new. He's a manager, which probably says to me he's not in my wheelhouse. There's a little bit here. But because I already know what he's doing, I'm probably not even going here. So what I'm doing is I'm showing you my thought process, because I'm trying to get through this stuff as fast as possible. I'm trying to really hone in on the people that are going to make the biggest difference to me. Now, as you can see, I'm having to work quite hard here where I'm using the basic filters, and the reason for that is LinkedIn. It gives you those other filters to make it more powerful for you, because they want you to pay them $1,000 a month. So this is not undoable, if that's even a word, but you can see that you have to work so much harder in order to do this. So again, you can see if you click on it, generally you will see people that understand LinkedIn, like you guys have from the session that we did last week. You will see that they will take the trouble to fill out as many of those 2,000 characters that we have available to us. If somebody's filling out something short like this, you invariably don't even have to read it. You'll know. So obviously it's very easy to read and quick to see. So this profile again is bombed out fairly quickly for me, based on what I just said to you. Bernard, he's got 500 plus, excited, not thrilled with the nonsense at the back. So it's not the most professional photo, but it's not the worst. At least I can see his face. I got some idea of who he is. Quite excited about that. Bernard does talk about some stuff, so let's have a look at what he says. But again, relatively small, corporate stuff, easy target market, no. So you can see I'm able to assess this really, really quickly, and I'm really hoping I can find someone that I can I can actually say, yeah, this is somebody that I want to look at, so that I can actually show you a little bit more. So again, no banner, terrible photo, 335 connections, not so sure, no profile, boom. Right, so we're lucking out right now. So probably what that means to us is that this word accountant is a little bit horrible. So let's just, for the sake of this quickly, let's go and change this to chartered accountant. Alright, let's do that again. So it's still got our filter. So now we've got 8,000. Okay, so this might be a little bit better. I don't know. So past trainee at Ernst & Young, don't know. So aspiring chartered accountant, I don't know. Let's have a look. Who knows? Bernard, we just seen. Chartered accountant. Okay. So this is where you have to be a little bit creative, and this is where you're going to have to spend a little bit more time getting into the whole process and finding out how to create the best search strings. So this person over here, again, I'm really hating the fact that there's no image, okay, but then there are 500 connections, so that always gets me to scratch my head as to why that would be. You can see here nothing written, so clearly this is not a person. So again, I was able to assess that very quickly. Sorry, no. Michael, again, 500 connections, some highlights, again, nothing for me to see because there's no profile. No. Please, somebody, show me something that I can use. Again, no profile. So you can see how so many people are actually on LinkedIn that are just not using it properly. And so there's just so much opportunity for all of us. Again, you can see here very little that they're talking about. So you can see that this is possible, but it's a lot of hard work. Okay. So what I want to show you now is how do we get past this hard work. And to be fair, I could spend a little bit more time with you, and we could find better keywords and would get better results. Okay, but you can go ahead and do that, because I'm going to actually take that to the next level anyway now when I take you through to Sales Navigator, and show you what it looks like there. So if you look at this over here, this is quite sneaky of them, right? They're telling you, please click here, continue your search on Sales Navigator, because you have 12 additional advanced filters. So this is where they make their money. So if you remember from our first webinar, we said that 39% of the people that are on LinkedIn, of that 600 million, actually pay some money to LinkedIn. Now there's different packages for different uses, but the fact of the matter is, because LinkedIn restricts you and makes it as difficult as I'm showing you right now, to actually find people, and it's difficult in the sense that you have to work hard, right? Because you don't have the power of really being able to laser focus using these filters, so that you can actually find the people that you want very quickly. So you're having to do a whole lot more work than you ordinarily would. So let's go ahead and let's click on this. So you can see another way to get there. There's a little icon up here that says Sales Navigator, but let's go and continue with Sales Navigator. So what it's doing now is it's opening Sales Navigator in a new window. So just to show you something here quickly, I just want to show you. This is how you would see my profile when you are looking at a profile. This little icon over here, this little golden eye in. If you see that little icon there, you know that this person is paying for premium. So again, if we look in the side here, of these people, only Nicole is paying for premium. So if somebody is paying for premium on LinkedIn, I'm very excited, because that means that they understand the power of the platform, and that they are wanting to get particularly involved in the platform, and they know what they're doing. So they're probably going to be on the platform, they're paying attention on the platform, they're looking to buy or sell, they are players. So if I'm actually reaching out to them, there's a very, very good chance that I can create an opportunity to turn them into a paying client, as long as they meet the rest of the criteria that I'm actually looking for. Okay, so just wanted to show you, that's how we know whether people are premium members or not. So as we now go in here, you can see we've got Chartered Accountant, and we've got our results. And you can see over here, the filters that we've got, we've currently still only got the first 2 filters. Now, another way to get into this, if you were in Sales Navigator itself, you will see, if you click on the advanced here, I'm just going to hover over it, you'll see we can search for leads, or we can search for accounts. So accounts are for bigger sales organizations where they're looking for companies. We generally, as accountants, are more concerned about leads. So we would click that. So if I click that, what it does is it opens up this box of filters. And the other way I could get there, just to show you, if we scroll down, you see here it says view all filters. If I click on that, it takes us to the same place. So let's sit and consider what we are seeing here for the moment. And now what I want to do is I want to show you again practically. Let me talk you through all of these filters, or the ones that I think are the most important, how you would use them, and then we can play with this and see if we can come up with better results than the results we had when we were just using the unpaid version of LinkedIn. So currently, as you can see, we started off with a keyword of Chartered Accountant. We've got the geography, so we've used the region, right? We haven't, if we click here, we haven't used the postal code piece, in other words, the radius piece, and we have used the relationship piece. So in this case, we're looking for second degree connections. So when we were talking about those Boolean searches, this is where we would put it in. So let's say I've got Chartered Accountant, and then I could say not, for example, trainee accountant. Okay, so if I said not trainee accountant, and I now click search, can you see it's already reduced it for me? So when I click search, that 24,000 has now been reduced to 5,694, which means that the vast majority of them were all trainee accountants. So can you see the power of putting that not search filter in? It immediately takes out the vast majority of people that I would have had to have gone through. 20,000 people, that's just eliminated it from my search, so I don't have that issue. And obviously if you scroll down, you can see it over there. So as we go through and we build up the searches, the thing that you can do later on is you can actually save the search. So if you have gone through this process and you've iterated it and you're really happy that you're getting good results out of it, save the search. So next time all you do is you go up here to your saved searches, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a little while. You bring that search back up, and you can search again. So what I'm going to do is I want to go back here to view all filters. Let me just start. I'm going to start this again, this piece, as I enter the keyword, because I want to show you something really cool. So as I key in the word accountant, what it now does is LinkedIn is predictive. So it's starting to show us some other ideas and examples. Now, clearly LinkedIn understands the way that it's put its own platform together. So it's giving us an indication of how we might want to search for people, as opposed to just putting in the word accountant. So you can see here, it says also, so try chartered accountant, not training accountant, London. Okay, now it's picked that up because I put that in a moment ago. Finance accountant, accountant, not training accountant. Did you mean people working as a trainee accountant, people working as a chartered accountant, or people who worked as a chartered accountant? So this is really cool. Okay, I like this a lot. So instead of having accountant, I might rather click people working as a chartered accountant. So the difference here, obviously, between this and that is that these are people who might have been working as a chartered accountant before. So maybe they were at Pricewaterhouse where they did articles, and now they're in commerce and industry. So sometimes this is useful, but for me, I don't see why that would be particularly useful. I want to know who is currently working as a chartered accountant. Now, if that's what I've put in, I'm going to click this. So you can see here, suddenly I'm down to 170 results. But it's a really, really nice way for me to actually hone in and find particularly who I'm looking for. Because if they're working as a chartered accountant, it's very, very specific. But it has now reduced my search string by quite a bit. So I'm probably going to say, that sucks. No, let's go and let's go and do chartered accountant again, and we will leave it at that. Okay, so that is where we're at. So we've got 24,000 results at the moment, and we've used the geography, and all we've said is the Joburg region in South Africa, and I've got 7 second degree connections. So let me take you through all of these and let's discuss them. So this first one I don't often find particularly useful, but this is if you have done a lot of searches before and you're wanting to exclude stuff that you've done before, then you would use this. Okay, but for most of us this is not particularly important. So remember when I showed you that little slide that I did for you, and I said to you these are the most important filters, but I said to you there were more. So this is one of those examples of more filters, but honestly, do we ever use it? No, not really. The ones that I gave you are the most critical ones, and that's going to help you when you're actually planning before you go to, for example, verify whether a niche is a good niche. This is the process that you would go through. So the geography we already know. So when we do region, if I get rid of that, I've got a couple of options here. So if I click on all locations, you can go and type in anything. So you can see us in the South African context, I'm going to have 9,000 people, but I could type in anything. So if I type in Edenvale, and again, I'm just waiting now, and I'm waiting for LinkedIn to see if it has Edenvale in its database as a filter. It doesn't, so this should be interesting. If I click yes, let's try that again. Not helping me a great deal. You can see it's not picking it up here. What LinkedIn does like to do, so if we go back to, let's just say, so as you can see Johannesburg, what's really nice about it is it's telling us, okay, that based on these other criteria in the Johannesburg area there are 5,694 people. So if I click that, okay, what you're going to see is that because I've got some other criteria, this has made it a little bit bigger, but this would be just for chartered accountants. So this obviously helps me in order to do that. And if I didn't want to use region and I wanted to do postal code, this is where I would go. So if I'm not now if I want to go into South Africa, obviously I'd have to now scroll down. Where are we? South Africa, within 10 or 15 kilometers. So they're going to give you miles. So these are for those of us that are not in South Africa, like in the US, for example. And obviously you can increase that. So for us, particularly if we're in the Gauteng area, 120 k's probably isn't unrealistic. And then we're going to put in the postal code. So you can see you can put in a number of postal codes. You just have to separate them by a comma. So if I want to see who's close to me, and I add that in, you'll see now that 26,000 has gone down to 24,000. And let's say that I decide that, in fact, let's go do that again. Let's be a bit more restrictive. I don't want to travel so far. I just want to go 40 kilometers. Let's see what that does for me. Oops. Yeah, sorry. Sometimes you're going to do that. You're going to click yourself out, which is going to drive you nuts, but that happens every now and again. Where do we say 40? And we'll add that. So you can see it's starting to reduce the number of results that we've got. So clearly, the more of these filters that we add in, the more restrictive it's going to be. So the theory, obviously, is that the more the filters we use, the easier it is to hone in on exactly who we're looking for. A point, though, sometimes does come where you're just too restrictive, and you'll know that because you just don't have enough people to reach out to. So use this with a pinch of salt, and just use the most important ones. So in this case, I'm actually going to get rid of this, and I'm going to go back to region, and I'm just going to stick with Joburg, right? So we got 24,000 results that we're going to work with. Then, of course, we know the relationship status. So if we click on that, again, remember, because we're looking at our network, it's first, second, and third degree connections and group members. So we can see, based on the criteria that we've got here, if we currently, I have in my network, because they're first degree connections, I already have 216 chartered accountants as connections. Of all the groups that I'm a member of, I have access to another 6,885, and then third degree plus connections. Now, you're generally not going to see this in the free version, but because we're paying here, even though they're not a third degree connection, LinkedIn will still show it to me. And as you can see in this particular search, or as we have it defined at the moment, we've got over 27,000 people there. So I'm fairly happy with second degree connections, but I could actually select all of them. So now I've added groups, so you can see that's changed, and if I add third degree connections, it's going to change again. So we're starting to add more and more people. But remember that at the end of the day here, LinkedIn is only going to show us 1,000 members at most. So it doesn't always help us to be that open with our filters. So for now, I'm going to get rid of my third degree connections, and for now I'm going to get rid of group members, because group members, I often feel we can use that to be very, very specific, and it helps us to use that second level, as I said, of people pre-qualifying themselves or being part of a group. So for the sake of this discussion, I'm going to leave that out. So we'll stick with our second level connections, but again, this is how you go through the process and you decide. So industry, as you can see, the different industries that are now related to chartered accountants. So what this is saying, for chartered accountants in the Joburg area who are second degree connections, they are working in these industries. So again, these are the industries that LinkedIn has identified as their filters. So those that are working in the accounting industry, there's 7,000 of them. Financial services, almost 4,000. Banking, mining, etc. So the first ones make sense to me, right? Because I want accountants in public practice, so I want them in the accounting industry, so I would click that. I deal with financial advisors, so ordinarily I might click financial services, but because today I'm just looking for accountants, I wouldn't click any of these others. Once we get past this lot, all of this other stuff here is in commerce and industry, right? Banking, mining and minerals, IT, insurance, telecoms, retail. So none of these people are very useful for me in the search, because remember, I'm looking for owners, partners, directors in public practice. So this is why that work that we did last week is so important, because this allows us to decide who we should connect with. So that's how you go through this. I'm just going to stick with accounting, because it's what makes the most sense for me over here in our industry. But again, you're going to talk to your industry. Schools over here can mean schools as you would understand it, as in high school, primary school, but what schools means in the LinkedIn sense is generally tertiary education. So this would be things like universities, colleges, technicons, any of those sorts of things. If you were to type them in here, if you knew them, you could then further use those filters. For us, I don't find that particularly important. If you were Price Waterhouse and you were trying to find your alumni, that might make sense to you, or if you were a recruiter and you were trying to find people that went to a particular university. But for us, do we care? Probably not. Okay, so that's one of those filters that's it's there, but not such a big deal. Profile languages, as we can see. Give me a second, I just need to blow my nose. One moment. Again, I like to default this to English, because depending on where you are in the world, there's often many other languages. If you are lucky enough to have other languages that you can definitely hone in on, fine. But as you can see, again, you can only select what's on this list, right? So as you scroll down the list, if your languages are not on this list, there's not a whole lot you can do. So from us, in a South African perspective, if we were looking for people that were fluent in particular black languages, we'd have to use this keyword in the Boolean search. We wouldn't be able to use the language profile. So I always just go English. Just say English and get over it. And you'll see it didn't make a big difference to the results that came up here. Okay. This slot here, the first name and the last name, clearly if you're looking for somebody specific, this just allows you to find whether they have a profile on LinkedIn. For us, remember, we're trying to reach out, we're trying to maximize the amount of people that could be useful for our industry. So is this going to be useful for us? No, this is one of those things that from the perspective of what we're trying to do, not particularly useful. But if you knew somebody by name and you wanted to find them, you could do that. So they call this the top filters. That's the first line of filters that we're going to fill in. And once we've got to that, as we can see, we've got close to 7,000 people in the Joburg area that we can talk to. So let's scroll down now and let's get into what we call the roles and tenure filters. Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit more exciting for us, because this is all about us reaching out and finding decision makers. That's important, because we don't really want to reach out to people that cannot make a decision. And many times we have to. So sometimes you have to reach out to somebody and then you have to give them the information that they can give that information to a decision maker. But for us, mostly if we're dealing in smaller companies, SMEs, and we're not dealing in the big corporates, we can go straight to the decision maker. So let's find out who they are. So this is probably my favorite, the seniority level. So in my world, as I said to you, when I'm talking about accountants in public practice, you guys, if you think about it, what would you call yourselves? You would call yourselves owners or partners. Those are the two obvious ones. And then, of course, director, because of the incorporated scenario that we have. But there's all these other seniority levels as well. And again, it depends on your niche and what it is that you're looking for. So CXO, these are what they call C-level executives. So that is somebody with chief in the title. Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, whatever that is. That's kind of universal. So if you are looking for people at that level, that would be a good place to go. VP is an Americanism. It stands for Vice President. It's kind of, it's not the main guy what counts, as it were. It's somebody that has a title, but that's kind of up and coming. So in a management type of role. So you can decide whether you want to talk to them. Directors, generally directors have got that sort of corporate identity around them, and you know, all of the stuff that goes around with being a director, responsibilities, etc. But in my case, it's very specific, because I know that if you have an incorporated company in South Africa, you would have to call yourself a director, and that is how I'd be able to find you. As we scroll down, obviously we've got managers. So in my case, do I care about managers? No. Do I care about seniors? No, because they can't buy my stuff. Entry level? No. Even less. Training? No. Unpaid? I'd be lying if I even said I knew what that was. So clearly no. So that's how we go ahead and we use seniority level. So in my case, I would click owner, I would click partner, and I would click director. So as I'm clicking, what you're seeing is this is reducing the whole time, right? So now I'm down to 1,283. So if I was going to automate this like I show you next week, I'm starting to get quite excited, because I'm only going to be able to automate 1,000. If I'm going through it and I'm going to spend a little bit more time, which I probably am, because I haven't quite worked out the ideal search string, this is probably too few now for me. Okay, I've got too few people that I'm going to deal with here. I'd like there to be more. Now remember, I deal in a niche where I've got access to millions of people, so I'd like this to be a good few thousand before I start reducing. You may have no choice, right? If you have gone up here and you have decided on a niche that and you need them to be close to you, and there are other issues here with geography, maybe there are only 500 people on the whole of LinkedIn in the Johannesburg area that are applicable to your niche. Well, that's it. just go with that. Then you would have to start saying to yourself, okay, let me not be too restrictive with these other filters, because it's actually going to take a lot more people out of play. So you have to use this with a pinch of salt, but for me, where I've got access to so many people, I can use a lot more of these filters. So I'm going to leave that just for the moment, because obviously I'm just going through this and I'm showing you which filters are more important and how you can use them. Then we've got years in current position and years at current company. So again, this might be important. So this helps you with tenure in terms of the decision makers. So in my case, where I'm looking for business owners, and you guys will be in a very similar situation, what you want to do is maybe to determine how long people have been in business. So anybody that's been in business for less than a year has major risk to you, because that company may or may not survive. Anyone who's been in, say, from 3 to 5 years plus, those are established businesses. On the other hand, if somebody's got more than 10 years in business, there's a very good chance they've got an accountant, and it's going to be quite difficult for you to potentially displace that existing accountant in order to get yourself to be entrenched as an accountant. Okay, so this is how we actually go through this whole process, and how we think about everything. So that is how you use that. And then obviously years in current company. So again, if that's important to you, same principles apply. So, use these filters intelligently and work out how they apply to your niche. For me right now, do I care? No. I might use this one, to be fair. I think this is pretty cool. Again, I was in that scenario there where I was explaining to you a bit earlier, when people have qualified and they start their own practice. So I might say 3 to 5 years, and then I'm going to select everything over and above that, right? 6 to 10 years, more than 10 years. And as you'll see, as I select more and more, obviously I get more and more people. So if I was way too restrictive, then I would say, all right, never mind, and I'd delete all of these and I'd take everybody. But let's just say for the sake of this discussion, we're going to go with that. Do I care working at their current company? No. Function, so this one is cool. So now this is going to be the function that they have within the industry. So remember, if we go up here, we chose already the accounting industry. Now I want to know, what do they do in the accounting industry? So which people in the accounting industry could be useful for me to reach out to? So people in the accounting function, maybe, probably that's my best bet. But again, you could be in the accounting function by being a bookkeeper or a trainee accountant. You could be in finance. That's kind of broad, maybe not. Business development. I love business development, right? Because these are the people that are tasked with getting new clients. That is the title that they give themselves, business development. So, or sales, for example. So I might be quite excited with business development. Now you'll see this plummets rather dramatically, but that's okay, because I'm being very, very specific in terms of what I'm doing. And let's go with sales. And let's just see if there's anything else. So now you see, because I'm bringing in more, you'll see if let's just delete sales, you'll see the 382 goes down to 355. So I didn't add too many, but it added a few. So we'll click on it. The rest of it I'm not all that excited about. Maybe entrepreneurship, I don't know, but not in this instance. So I could obviously click accounting. In fact, if we did that, let's see what happens. We go back to 621. But for now, I'm going to take that out, and we'll run with it. Titles, current titles, I want them to be current, okay, because I want people to be in the position at the moment as I'm dealing with them, years of experience, again, in their current field. How long do we want? Let's go with 60. Actually, let's not base for that, because I'm going to kill myself with the results. I'm already down to 382. But if I want to do, I certainly could. So that is our role and tenure filters. Then we get down to our company filters. So here we've got companies or Boolean. So this is where you can actually go ahead and say this company and that company, or this company or that company. So what LinkedIn has now done is it's used the intelligence that it's got in its back end to say, remember, we search for chartered accountants. So those of you that are accountants, you'll recognize a lot of these names, right? These are names that are very specific to accountants. So like if I wanted people at Ernst & Young, I would click that, or KPMG, or whatever the case is. So again, this is LinkedIn giving us some opportunities. I'm not going to use that because I'm not particularly prejudiced right now. I'm looking to get as many people into my filters as I can, and then I'll go ahead and I'll look. My head count, this is one of my favorites for sure, because it helps me to deal with people. So you can see of this, only 184 are self-employed, right? So if I click self-employed, now you'll see this is going to plummet dramatically. Now I've only got 10 results. But if I go 1 to 10, I'll get a few more. If I go 11 to 50, I'll get a few more. Now, if I was like hell-bent on finding people in Johannesburg, this is when I said to you earlier on, maybe I'll go up. Like I got 125 results. I might stick with that for now, but I might say, no, you know what, let's try a few more. Let's see, 139, you know what, let's go up to 500. Okay, so I've got 150 results. So you can see every time I add a filter, it reduces the amount of people that I'm going to have access to. Company type, again, this may or may not be applicable to you, but many times it is. So we're doing some work. We've got to be working with somebody where we need to get access to non-profits or charities, that sort of thing, where we're doing some really, really good work. So here I would click non-profit, for example, as opposed to all of these others. But you can have a look here. I might click self-employed or self-owned public company. In this case, I think I've got enough other filters to help me. I probably don't need to, but in some instances, I think you can see where the power would be, particularly for things like, I think, educational institutions or non-profits. I think you might find some key stuff here, or if you're into the government space, government agencies. Okay, we're not going to go there now. And again, past companies, if you knew that you were looking for people that worked at Pricewaterhouse, you could put that in. Do I care? No. So that's not important. And then we've got some other filters down here, right? So this could be quite useful. When did they become a member of LinkedIn? So it doesn't give you a whole lot of information relating to older members, but if you're looking for people that are relatively new, in other words, people are joining LinkedIn all the time, so it's like fresh prospects, if you like. This is an easy way for you to actually go ahead and find them. Right now, I'm not going to use that. Where I would use this is if I was doing this regularly and I kept bringing people into my LinkedIn profile, and I had done a lot of searches, then obviously I'm going to have worked through everybody that's in there. Then the only way for me to really leverage that particular search string again is as new people join. And so what I might do is every 3 months or so come in, and then I'll click the 1 to 3 months, and it's essentially going to give me the new people that have joined, so that I don't have to go through all the old people that I'd seen before. So that's how you'd use that particular filter. The groups, let's talk about groups in a second, because it deserves its own spot, and I think we may have actually already talked about groups. Tags, so tags is pretty cool. So when you have access to Sales Navigator, you can create your own tags. So you can see, as I've gone through over the years and I've done certain things, as I've identified somebody, I've given them a tag. So if there's somebody that I've identified as an accountant, I've called them an accountant, or accountant marketer, or accounting practice. And you can see there's all sorts of things that I've done for various searches. So here's where I was looking at associations for CPE, which is our version of CPD in South Africa, bookkeepers, etc. So what's nice about this is later on, when you want to search your own connections, or you want to do a search here, you can use these tags that you've actually created, and it's very easy for you to find people that are in your own connection base. Okay, so that's where you use tags. Not particularly useful right now for actually finding people, but useful for managing them when you've got them. And then I posted content keywords. So again, this is for content marketing. I wouldn't go there now. So if I was looking for people that were posting content relating to accountants, maybe because I was looking to work with authority figures in that space that could introduce me to accountants, or I was looking for accountants that were particularly progressive, that were doing content marketing, that's what I would do. The key one for me though is groups. So what's nice here, if I go and I type in here marketing for accountants, right, you can see all of these particular groups right now actually go ahead and exist. So this is really, really cool. What I would probably do when I was using groups is I would actually get rid of a lot of all of these other filters, because many of them wouldn't be all that applicable. What I would be wanting to do is I would want to know who they are. So I'd be looking for chartered accountant. I might keep some of these, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick people that are in that particular group, and then as they bring that up, I'm going to then be able to know that at least they have shown an interest in marketing. So the downside with this is that in any of these groups, there's going to be marketers and they're going to be accountants. So as I go through, I'm going to discard the marketers immediately because I can't sell them anything, and I'm going to look for the accountants. But when I do find accountants that are in a group for marketing, I'm going to know that they're a pretty good prospect, and they would be the ideal people for me to reach out to. So in many ways, the first search that I would do would be this. Why not go for the low-hanging fruit? Because these people have already told me that they're into marketing. Okay, so groups, very, very important. Awesome to be able to use this. So as you can see, there are so many more, and I'm just going to click search here so that it actually gives us the results. There are so many more opportunities available to us when we go through and we actually use something like Sales Navigator, and we should get much better results. So let's have a look at the results that we've got. Before we go ahead and just click some of these, what I do want to show you here is we've got a total of 180 results. Of these 150 results, of these 150 people, 6 of them changed jobs in the past 90 days. Now that could be important, right? So if I was, say, searching for somebody that was a partner, for example, in an accounting or auditing firm, or somebody that was involved in marketing or in sales or business development, and I knew that they just changed jobs, chances are they're trying to make a good impression. So if I was to reach out to them and to help them with what they were doing, I'd probably be very well received. Okay, so that's how you can use some of these other things, these other filters that are out there. Again, 25 of these people posted on LinkedIn in the past 30 days. So what that says to me is, look, these are people that understand the power of LinkedIn. They're doing a little bit to get their exposure out there. They're probably people that I want to talk to. Plus, I know that they're going to be active on LinkedIn. Okay, so that's another big plus for me. And then here, these are people that share experiences with me. So, if I click on any of them, like if I click on that, it's going to show me just those 25 people. And I can obviously go through it. Let's not do that. Let's stay with our 150. And let's move our Sales Navigator over here. Let's just go, and I'm not even going to read the stuff. I'm just going to click on the first few results, and let's go and have a look at what we get. So now you can see over here. So Sarel, he's a chartered accountant. He's in Angola. He's in insurance, a Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. It's probably not going to be what I'm looking for, but here's his profile, his summary, because you can see the read more. Now, when you actually go ahead and you click on it, in Sales Navigator, what it does is it brings up this little pop-up box. So now you can actually go ahead and you can read through it. So he's previously worked for KPMG. I'm reading through this and I'm looking for, does he own his own practice? Is he probably looking to grow his practice? I'm not really seeing anything there. So he may or may not be that useful for me, but he might be. So he's awarded some awards. He's got exposure for many years. He's worked in auditing, part of committees. So global status, short-term goals to obtain business and financial experience at respectable company. Okay, so we can see not really, because he wrote a decent profile, or he actually put something on it. I had to take a little bit of time to read through it, but there was nothing in there. So again, don't have to waste too much time, but we've had a look and we said, okay, so Sarel is not for us. Henny over here, again, let's have a look at Henny. He's giving you some of the stuff that he's done. So again, he's giving you a lot of experience. Board pack. There's no indication here that he's running his own practice. So again, I'm probably going to pass on this one fairly quickly. So Tendai, director and founder of accounting and consulting services. So already I know, even though the profile sucks, because you can see there is no profile, there's nowhere for me to click, there might be some opportunity here. You can see 295 connections. So for me, if I'm selling LinkedIn services, for example, this person would actually be ideal for me to reach out to, because obviously they're in my target market. They don't have a LinkedIn profile that's particularly useful. It's not particularly client facing that's going to help them to get new clients. So if I was to reach out to Tendani, I might have a very, very good opportunity of making a sale there, and I could really add value, I think it's to her business, and it would make sense for me to reach out. So this would actually be somebody that I would potentially reach out to, even though I don't have enough other information. Okay, so that would be a yes. Let's have a look at old Don here, chart account and partner. So I'm quite excited about partner. SP3 Group, don't quite know what that is yet. Let's go and have a look. Let's read his profile. Constantly seek to add value to our clients. Okay, so now I'm very excited. He has clients. Woohoo, right? And business partners, no matter how big or how small. A long list of satisfied clients proves that we're doing important things right. Actively pursue mutually beneficial relationships. Okay, so all the right things for me are here. What has Donnie done? He's given me, just in case I missed it, he wants to be found, right? So Donnie's done something right. So Donnie's cool. Obviously, I can go and have a look at some of this other information. Donnie is definitely somebody I want to talk to. Okay, so Donnie is somebody that I'm actually going to reach out to. So I could just go here and I could actually message him, and I could. And messaging we're going to do next week. Okay, so I'm not going to go into this now, but this is what we're going to do. So having a look at this, we spent a little bit of time playing around with our filters. We had a 50% success rate here. We clicked the first 4 people, and 2 of them we were actually able to connect to. So you can see where the great power of the filters comes into play. And this is really where I suggest you guys play. But I don't want you to go play here until you've got your profile up and running properly. So as with these things, when we do these off-the-cuff things, we don't know where they're going to go, how long it's going to take. So we've kept you here for 2 hours, which is kind of about as long as I wanted to keep you here. So I said to you that I wanted to take one of your niches and maybe go through the process. We're just not going to have time to do it today. If you guys want to do it, we can certainly do that in another session, but I think I've managed to cover most of the important bits and pieces for you today. So what I want to do at this point in time is I'm going to stop sharing my screen for the minute, so that I can see everybody, and let me see if I need to. So what I want to do now is I want to open this up to questions for you guys. So you guys can ask any questions. So if you just click on your little microphone on the, I'm not sure if you can do it. I think you can. I might have created the settings so that everybody's on mute. If you can unmute yourself, just do that, and then just go ahead and talk. Otherwise, let me know and I'll unmute you and you can talk. So this is one of the nice things about this particular platform, is that we all get an opportunity to talk, and now we can actually chat instantly. Villy, it looks like you might be free to chat. Do you want to say something? Awesome, Villy. Of course. Yeah. Okay. I always like to be as specific as I can, and so what I'll tend to do is I would narrow it down as narrow as I can. However, it's quite acceptable to do what you just said. I often have a really interesting discussion with accountants, so I'll bring it up with you guys now. With my coaching clients, I'm always trying to push them to be very specific, as you know. One of the reservations I often come up with, and this might talk a little bit to what you're asking now, is they'll say, but if I say that I am involved, I'm a specialist in the retail industry, or I'm a specialist to the clothing retail industry, I might be inadvertently alienating other clients. So that's something that you have to consider. I don't like that argument, because I think if we look at LinkedIn, we're really using it as a vehicle to drive new clients. So another tactic that you could use there is you could do it one at a time. So remember, when we get into the next couple of weeks, I'm actually going to show you how to take this information and actually how to reach out to people and literally turn people into paying clients. So what you can do, and I do this all the time, is depending on what product I'm promoting at the time, or what industry, I will change my LinkedIn profile up. So today I might be talking about LinkedIn. In a few months' time, I will have changed that completely. So my banner will change, the content will change, and now I'm, say, focusing on sales funnels for accountants. Or maybe now I'm not talking to accountants anymore. Now I want to do financial advisors or bookkeepers. Okay, so that's another option. But the short answer to your question is yes, you certainly can be a little bit more generic, but the more specific you are. Remember, when we spoke about that concept of the red umbrella, when your clients are reaching out to you, or when you're reaching out and you're saying to them, hey, would you like to connect? And they go to your profile. If you are very, very specific and you've connected to them for a specific reason, and you'll see next week when we do the ways that we couch those connection requests, it really it accelerates your ability to connect, and obviously the conversion rate that you're going to have from those people that you've connected to the people that you're actually able to convert in the client. So the short answer is yes, you can. I do, however, like to be a little bit more specific in terms of what I'm doing. The other thing you could do, by the way, is if you've got multiple partners, is each partner pick an industry. So partner one would be this, partner two would be that, or maybe not partners, but you could have managers or others. So there's lots of different ways that you could go about it. Does that answer your question? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. I'll tell you something interesting. The main stuff that we do, I've got a coaching program which is quite intense called the Regular Accounting Client Blueprint. And what I do is I work with accountants every month every week on the program. And it can be anywhere from 3 to 6 months, and probably, I would say, a good 2 to 3 months is actually all about ideal client, and a lot of that is actually finding the particular niche. And whenever I ask past clients, or even clients that are still in the process, I say, what's been the most valuable for you in this whole process? Probably 90% of the time, picking a niche is the answer that comes back. And I get so excited when somebody says to me, "Jeez, I didn't realize I could create a whole practice around just one niche." When that happens, then I know that the message has got home, because you'll see once you do that, you become the specialist, you become the go-to person. You don't have competition, and you'll see even in your own internal processes that you create, you'll create stuff that makes it easy for you and for the rest of your staff to deal with those clients. You'll come up with all sorts of stuff. You'll come up with KPIs for them. You'll come up with stuff that's specific to them. And what happens is it becomes easy. So, like, when I deal with accountants, my life is very, very easy, because I know you guys backwards, because I am one of you. I've done it for a million years. Every now and again, you might come to me and say, "Hey, I've got an attorney client, I've got a retail client, or some other service. Can you help them?" So the answer is always yes, right? Because what I'm teaching you here is to niche your marketing. So I'm not saying to you, if you choose services and retail and a manufacturer comes, you shouldn't take them. Of course you should take them, right? But we're going out and we're trying to make something very, very specific happen. And that's really all we're trying to do, is let's reach out to the people we can. Let's convert them as best we can, but we'll take anybody in the big scheme of things. But the more we niche, the more we become powerful in what we're doing. And in that example where somebody says to me, "Can you help my client?" The answer is yes, but I have to work probably 3 times as hard. And all that stuff that I showed you last week about ideal client and that, I have to go through that with you first, because I have to learn the industry. I don't have to learn about accountants. I know what you guys do. I know, I've seen everything. But if I'm suddenly dealing with a freaking clothing retailer, yes, I've got to learn that industry before I can help them. So it definitely pays you in spades, I promise you, to niche. Cool. I would say for now, no. So what I would do is I would go through them, because remember, if you've got those first ever connections, and you'll have to do this individually, because LinkedIn, you used to be able to actually export everybody and get all their emails. LinkedIn, they always fiddling with it. They screwed us over about 6 months ago, and they stopped that. So get one of your clerks to go through it literally, or maybe somebody that's a little more intelligent that might actually know what's going on. So what the aim of the game there for you would be is, if you go through it and you kind of realize that there's really no prospect of you ever turning that person into a client, delete that one. Okay. If there is, just because we're now saying, okay, we're going to do retail and service. If you have a manufacturer, that's fine. That tags function that I showed you, especially if you're going to go ahead and use the CRM abilities of Sales Navigator, just go and put in tags. So now when you do searches, it's easy to find them. And now you can actually take those people, and even if you're not using LinkedIn, particularly as a vehicle like I'm showing you now, at least you've identified a list of 50, 100, 200, 500 of those people, of those 6,000 that are applicable to a particular area or a particular niche. And in 2 weeks from now, when I talk to you about email, I'll show you how you can then leverage that information. So no, don't delete them. But if you could classify them, it would be much better, because the more specific we can be, the better. So what I'm going to teach you now, what I am teaching you, is picking a niche and then writing something specific to them. But for those of us that have got different people, let's identify who they are, and let's write specific messages to them, because that's still very, very powerful. It's information we have that we don't have to pay for, and it's already there. And hopefully you've got a little bit of connection juice there. So many of them, if you've just connected, like in my early days, I might literally go in and delete the first 500 and probably be fine. I'd probably literally, if I kept, and I'm guessing now, I kept 500 of them, 550, that would be plenty. The last 1,000, that's a different story, because virtually everybody in there is in my target market. But as I've gone through, I've added these tags, so it's easy. So that's what I would do with those people. All right, awesome. Anybody else? Either I did a really good job, or I confused you, or I blew you away with a lot of content. Anybody else got any other questions here for today? How'd you guys go last week? Did you guys find that process of Ideal Client okay, or were you guys battling a little bit with that? I know we had those issues with the recording, so I think it was actually only Monday that I really managed to get the recording up for you guys. So one or two of you might be a little bit behind. That's okay, because as you saw today, it was a little bit practical. So I think what I want you guys to do, if you haven't, please, before you even go play with any of the stuff I showed you today, just put the time in. I promise you it'll be worth your while. It'll pay you in spades. Just do that work on the Ideal Client. Firstly, for some of the reasons that I explained to you today, but particularly get your LinkedIn profile sorted. Okay, I don't want you shouting anything to the world and telling them how wonderful you are until your LinkedIn profile is sorted, and hopefully you also got a website on the back of that is also fairly congruent with what you're doing. What I want to do for you guys is specifically for you guys that are on the beta group. Okay, this won't be the same for people coming in the future, but for you guys on the beta group, if you want to talk to me personally, although I didn't offer that to you as part of this package, that is available to you. So please, like, if you've got any issues and maybe you just need 5 minutes with me, maybe you need half an hour, whatever it is, please just reach out to me. Obviously I'm quite hectic at the moment, but I will find a time to speak to you. We might have to do it at night or whatever, but we'll definitely make a plan. Okay, so if you need to speak to me or you want help with something, please feel free, just reach out to me, and I'll help you with that. Let me just have a look at my messages to see there. So Carol says informative, thanks, awesome. Lino says got to run, thanks, cool. Lino, he's one of my coaching clients. I'll see him tomorrow. Morris has got a message for me there. Cool, Morris. Sure, we can definitely set up a meeting. I'll touch base with you, and let's find a time to chat. No problem at all. So yeah, okay, cool. Guys, anything else? Anything else you want to ask now? Any issues? Any questions? Or are you kind of happy? Are you guys doing okay? Is this all making sense? Are you excited? All of the above, none of the above? Let me know. Are we good to go? Alright, I'm not seeing anybody else that seems to need to chat to me now. Let me just get out of here. So I'm going to share again. Let's go back to our slides. I don't think there were too many that we had to worry about. So we've done that. Next week, we are going to get into the connect piece. So next week is really all about the psychology and the wording of how we connect. So next week we're going to work on particularly the LinkedIn piece. Okay, the week after we'll do the email piece. But as you saw, if you guys watched the introductory webinar, the thrust of the context of the content here is fairly similar. It's just how we actually implement it. So the key concepts of how to connect and what to do when people connect, how we take that to the next level, and then how we actually pull them offline into our practices. That's really what we're going to talk about next week. And I think next week we'll probably also talk to you a little bit about automation. So I'll show you the tool that we use and some of the cool things that you can do with it. So I guess that's it. I guess we've been through the Q&A side of things. 2 hours. I actually thought today, when you do the slides and you look at it, I thought, today's like a short little week. But I'll do a walkthrough, and then of course when you do, you get very excited, and sometimes it gets away from us. But hopefully you found today really useful. I think days like today where we get online and we just do stuff together, I think that's the most useful, and I think that's where the most learning can actually happen for everybody, because when you go through it, it doesn't always work flawlessly. You have to try some things, and hopefully I've given you a bit of an indication of how I would do it, just getting into my mind, and just go and go through that process. The only way to get good at this is just to do it now. And again, remember, I'm going to be available for you guys for a good few weeks yet, and you always have that opportunity to reach out to me. So if you guys want to chat, please, I'm here for you. I want to make sure that at the end of this, your LinkedIn machine is working flawlessly, and that literally you're getting leads every week, and then we'll show you the next step to convert a number of those leads into paying clients. So I think that's pretty much it. So I'll give you guys one last opportunity. I should do the stop sharing thing one last time. One last opportunity. Any questions? I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds. If I don't hear anything, then I'm going to say thanks very much. And I shall see you next week. As soon as I can, I will download the recording of this webinar. There's 1 or 2 worksheets, not too many, obviously, because today was more practical, that I'm going to upload for you. I'll load that stuff up for you. As soon as I've done that, I will let you know via email, and then you can pop on, you can watch the replay if you need to, and run through everything. And of course, if you need to get hold of me, please don't hesitate to do so. Alright guys, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks. I know this was a marathon session. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed doing it. I clearly love this stuff, but I guess there's something wrong with me, because I'm the marketing accountant, but I really do. I sit till all hours of the morning watching videos on this because I enjoyed so much. So anything I can do for you guys, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to see you all same time, same place next week. I will try, by the way, to get rid of that other stupid webinar. I forgot this morning to cancel it, so that's why I had to get my dad to phone you. I will cancel that so you don't get another reminder for the old software. Everybody should be set up for the rest of the Zoom sessions, so you guys should all have that. Alright guys, I shall see you then next week. Thanks for coming, and chat to you soon. Alright, cheers.